I also understand that there's a number of people who might have forgotten to turn off your cell phone. Look, I'm getting a call from my wife right now. Should I answer it? No. So, anyways, if you wouldn't mind silencing your cell phones, that would help. The other thing, I apologize. We're new to the building. We just got in here a while ago, and so we're working out some bugs in the sound system. This one hums, and the lapel mic is a little quiet. So if you just listen to it, you can. We're going to try to rectify that. Okay. All right. Did you want to? There we go. Turn ours off.
Thank you.
Did you want to start with a prayer or anything, or just go right in? It's up to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much and welcome. I made a mistake this morning. I said I'm going to talk about the immune system on Saturday morning, but I'm not. It's tomorrow. I looked at next week's schedule. But tomorrow we're talking about the immune system, amazing system. It's the reason why our body can heal itself. It's the reason why our body was designed to heal itself. So what I'd like to do before I begin is ask the great designer to teach us this evening. Father, thank you so much that we are here. Thank you so much for this incredible body. Its inbuilt ability to heal. Give us understanding, we pray. In the name of Jesus, amen. So tonight we're looking at detoxification. This is a very important subject because we are exposed to so many environmental poisons today. More than any generation who's ever lived on the planet. It is estimated 100,000 new chemicals are introduced every year. And so detoxification is important. And as you will see tonight, as I go through detoxification, our body's been designed to do such a thing. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't have survived past the age of about 5 years of age. But the body can detoxify as it can heal itself. And it's very important when you're looking at bringing about a healing condition in the body to house clean first. You would never move into an old house and just paint a dirty wall. No, there's a cleaning process. And this morning when we looked at the first aid kit, we looked at some simple things that you can implement to bring about healing if there's been an injury. But one thing we noted was whatever the wound, first of all, you clean it. It's a cleaning system. Cleaning externally, cleaning internally. Cleaning externally, it's obvious. But cleaning internally, bit of a puzzle because it's something we cannot see. So I'm going to take you through the first couple of days at Misty Mountain Health Retreat. Our program is often called a detox or a cleanse because the guests go through 2 days of juice fasting. Why juice fasting? Why fasting? It takes 1,200 calories to digest a meal. So when you are not digesting a meal, the body's looking for something to do. It's looking around and it goes to the areas of greatest need. I guess it's like what happened when we're on holidays at home. I don't know about you, but I go to the places that I know it's there, I know it's got to be dealt with, but on a day-to-day process, I just don't have time. On a day-to-day process, I'm washing the dishes, sweeping the floor, washing the clothes, making the bed, cooking the meals, right? So there's day-to-day, things got to be done. But that thing over in the corner, the papers that are piling up, or the bookshelf that's starting to look a little bit messy, that can wait. That can wait till I've got a little bit of time at home and I've got time to do extra. Maybe they're the things that you save for the middle of winter because I hear you have snow and you're not outside as much. So that's what happens when we stop eating. And fasting has been used for centuries. All through Europe, there were healing centers where people could go and go through a fast. Is there anywhere in America? I understand there are a few places. I'm not familiar with all of them. But Eden Valley, which is a health retreat in Loveland in Colorado, I used to go there every year, I think for about 10 years. And they started to see that the program that we use is very, very effective. And so that's what they use now. So I know in Loveland, Colorado, they have a similar program. Our guests come in on a Sunday. We are an hour and a half from the airport. We're an hour from the main road. If you know Australia, we're on the east coast of Australia. We're about halfway up. And most people that live in Australia, it's on the east coast. And lining the east coast of Australia is the Great Dividing Range. Have you heard of the Great Dividing Range? So you got coast, then you go up into the Great Dividing Range, and then you come down, and then eventually in the middle of Australia, it's all desert. You possibly remember that from school. Well, we're just in the foothills of the Great Dividing Range. So our guests come in on a Sunday, some by train, some by plane, some by car, and we serve a beautiful lunch, a very nice lunch. So our guests have got something to dream about for the next 2 days, because Monday, Tuesday are juicing days. So let me take you through the juicing. So the juicing, you will see, has a purpose. So Monday at 8 a.m, our first juice is served. What are they doing before 8 a.m? We have an exercise program, and we encourage our guests to drink lots of water. And the reason we get them to start early with their water is, as you'll see later in my class, at the end of the day, late afternoon, we have steam saunas. And they're going to be perspiring a lot. And I'll be showing you the reason for that. And we say to our guests, you cannot hydrate your body half an hour before the steam bath. You've got to start early. So encourage our guests to start early. So by the time the 8 o'clock juice is served, they've usually had at least 2 8-ounce glasses of water and had an exercise program. Now the juice that we predominantly serve is 80% carrot, 10% celery, and 10% apple. This is called the vegetarian's milk because you could just about subsist on this. In fact, I have met 2 mothers whose babies could not have milk. They had major allergies, major skin problems, couldn't have mother's milk, goat's milk. No. And so the naturopath put the baby on this as milk, and those babies thrived on that. We serve a juice every 2 hours, at 8, at 10, at 12, at 2, and at 4. At 6 o'clock in the evening, we serve a thin soup called a broth. I'll be describing that in a minute and the reason for it. So every 2 hours, we serve a juice, and we do some adjustments. Sometimes we'll do a little less carrot, and we'll put some beetroot in. I think you call them beets. We call them beetroots. Sometimes a little less carrot, and we'll put greens in. Sometimes cucumber. So variation on the theme. But that is the main juice. In the human body, our tissues, our blood should all be slightly alkaline, except for the stomach. When we go on our journey through the gastrointestinal tract, which we are going to be going through on Thursday, we will discover the reason for this acid stomach. It needs to be acid to break our protein down. That's the only part in the whole body that should be acid, except for the waste that comes out of the body. And when you're on a detox program, as I will explain to you, a lot of waste is being eliminated. So all the juices that we serve have an alkaline effect on the body. So we serve the juice, it's an 8-ounce glass, every 2 hours. Our guests say to us that it's a very easy fast because they don't get hungry. In fact, people say the only time they might get hungry is, oh, it's juice time. We encourage our guests to drink a glass of water between every juice because it's the best cleanser in the body. You can't just subsist on juice. How clean would your body be if you had a wash in juice? No, the juice has other purposes, which I will show you. Now, we are not giving our guests enough glucose to run on. And so fat cells start to get broken down. Tomorrow I'll be looking at the liver in a little bit more detail. But it's important to touch on the liver now because the liver plays a very important role in detoxification. Everything that goes into the body goes, and whether it be ingesting, whether it be through skin, whether it be breathing, goes into the blood, into the portal vein, straight to the liver. And then the liver determines what happens to it. The problem today is a lot of people are being exposed to environmental poisons, and that's coming in, and it goes to the liver, and the liver looks at it and it says, we can break this down and eliminate it. But some really nasty ones, it looks at it and says, this is a nasty guy, wrap it up in fat and store it. And so in many a fat cell today, what we've got stored is fat-soluble toxins. They cannot be eliminated as a fat-soluble toxin. The fat-soluble toxin has to be broken down to a water-soluble state. That water-soluble toxin then can be easily sweated out, urinated out via the colon. When food comes into the body, it breaks down to glucose. And the glucose, first of all, is sent to the cell, or it's stored as glycogen. I'll be looking at this process a little bit more tomorrow when we look at the liver. And any excess is stored as fat. So that explains the fat cells that we have, especially if a person's eating too many carbohydrates. It can be too much glucose, and it can be too many fat stores. But the environmental poisons that the liver cannot break down safely, it stores in the fat cells. And then the person comes to Misty Mountain. And we're not giving enough glucose for the body to run on. And so some of the fat stores are getting broken down to give the glucose that the cells need. But something else a little bit more sinister is being released, and that's the fat-soluble toxins. And that explains why if someone's on a detox, their breath may be a little worse than usual, their body odor a little worse than usual, what they're releasing into the toilet a little bit worse than usual. I say to our guests, rejoice, where was it before it came out? This is good news, it's coming out, it's coming out. So this fat-soluble toxin, it's once again in the bloodstream, because remember, as that glucose was, or the fat was broken down to give the glucose, the fat-soluble toxins released too. Once again in the blood, once again goes to the liver. Once again the liver says, not this nasty one again, wrap it up in fat, and oh, hang on, they're at the health retreat. Hang on, they're receiving the nutrients necessary to break the fat-soluble toxin down to a water-soluble state. The liver can do that, but it must have the nutrients required. And that's what I'm going to show you now, what happens. So within probably by 7 or 8 o'clock Monday morning, this is what's happening to a lot of our guests. Maybe not all the guests, maybe some of the guests, they haven't been exposed to many environmental poisons. It all depends what's in there. So by 8 o'clock, some of the fat-soluble toxins are being released. And now, when the liver picks up what's in that juice, and what's in that juice? What's in that juice is antioxidants. What are antioxidants? Antioxidants are often called free radical scavengers because they contain a lot of beta-carotenes. And beta-carotene is an antioxidant found in all green and orange and red coloured vegetables. And the juices that we serve our guests are orange or red or green. Our juices, we aim to be very high in antioxidants. Also, another, probably the most famous antioxidant is vitamin C, and vitamin C is not ascorbic acid. In nature, vitamin C is found as ascorbic acid with bioflavonoids. So if you do use a vitamin C, make sure it's got bioflavonoids with the ascorbic acid. The other most famous antioxidant is vitamin E, and vitamin E is found, well, it's in your fats really, because it's a fat-soluble vitamin. And because the body is receiving this in the juices, the liver realizes it has what it needs to break the fat-soluble toxin to a water-soluble state. And it does this through 3 phases, and that's what I'm going to take you through now. So by Monday morning, phase 1 begins. And in phase 1, the liver takes this fat-soluble toxin and it breaks it down to a metabolite. What's a metabolite? A metabolite simply means the first stage of breakdown or the first stage of metabolism. Basically, metabolism, breakdown. But this metabolite is worse than it originally was. It creates a lot of free radicals. And this is why the high antioxidant delivery in the juices are exactly what phase 1 needs. This metabolite can sometimes be 100 times more toxic than it originally was. And you might comment, well, what's the liver doing? It's just created something worse. Well, it's like what happens when you clean out the garden shed. Halfway through cleaning out the garden shed, what does the yard look like? 100 times messier than when you started. You're cleaning out the kitchen cupboards. What does the kitchen look like halfway through? 100 times messier than when you started. It's a process. It's a process. But to get a clean garden shed, you've got to go through that. To get your kitchen cupboards in order, you've got to go through that. And it's exactly the same as what's happening here. So to help protect the body from these high free radical metabolites, these metabolites that are 100 times more toxic, the juices supply exactly what it needs. You see, an antioxidant is high in extra electrons, and a free radical is an electron free, or it's missing an electron. So it tries and grabs an electron from the next atom. And then that atom tries and grabs the electron from the next atom. You get this cascading, damaging effect in the tissues. And that's what the juices are doing. High in beta-carotenes, supplying the extra electrons, calming down the free radicals. But within 36 hours of starting a detox program. So that brings us to Tuesday. So what happens Tuesday? Once again, we've got an 8-ounce vegetable with a bit of fruit juice every 2 hours, supplying all the antioxidants that our liver needs. Within 36 hours, the liver now goes into phase 2. And in phase 2 of the liver detoxification, the liver takes this highly toxic, highly volatile metabolite and joins it together with amino acids. The union of amino acids with the toxic metabolite, you've got a joining together, that produces the water-soluble state that we've all been waiting for. Phase 3 happens in conjunction with phase 2. And in phase 3, the liver takes the water-soluble toxin and it releases it out via our sweat glands. That's why we give our guests a steam sauna every afternoon. We create or encourage the big sweat. So you're sweating out these toxic metabolites, and it can come out via your urine, which why we encourage our guests to drink lots of water. It can also be released out via our colon. Phase 3 happens in conjunction with phase 2. Now let's come back for a moment and look at the juices. 8-ounce juice every 2 hours, supplying the beta-carotenes, the vitamin C. But as well as the 8-ounce juice, we give a 2-ounce. We give a 2-ounce little supplement of green barley. What's green barley? Now, it could be spirulina, it could be green barley, it could be wheatgrass, but you buy it in the freeze-dried powder. And we mix it with a little lemon juice and a little water. Our guests don't particularly like the green barley bit, but we say to our guests, throw your greens down and then have your dessert, which is the nice juice. And we give them the green barley at 8 o'clock on Monday, at 12 o'clock on Monday, and at 4 o'clock on Monday, which ups the antioxidants that they're taking. On Tuesday, we adjust, because Tuesday our guests have gone into phase 2. And now our guests need amino acids. And so on Monday at 10 o'clock, we also provide a protein drink. Again, 2 ounce. I'll explain. So on Monday, we serve a protein drink at 10 and a protein drink at 2, just in case some of these metabolites have come out of it sooner. But it's usually within 36 hours, then they're really active. And so on Tuesday morning, the first juice we serve with a protein drink. And the protein is also supplied at 12 and at 4. And we serve a green barley the other 2 times. So this adjustment is in line with what's happening in the liver with the 3 phase of the liver detox. Some people cruise through. We find that most people go very well through the juices. I did not know about this until I studied it probably 15 years ago. This information I have just given you has not been known until probably about the last 20 years. But it explains the importance of supplying amino acids in the detoxification process, because we are dealing with more fat-soluble toxins than any generation who ever lived on the planet. And we had a Vietnam veteran attend our program. Now, the Vietnam War, it's almost as if there was no limit on the chemicals used in that war. Yes, chemical warfare started in World War I, a little bit also in World War II, but the Vietnam War, what happened is they would spray the chemicals from the air to kill the jungle so they could see the enemy. But guess who else was down there? Yes, our soldiers. So this Vietnam veteran, he was carrying a bit of excess weight. He was about, I'm just doing my adjustments, I know kilos. So he was about 70 kilos. What would that be? 140 pounds. So he was carrying maybe 40-pound excess weight. And he wanted to lose weight, but his doctor had said to him, don't lose weight. Why did his doctor say that? Because when those fat cells started to break down, he's got some nasty things sitting in his fat cells. So he came to our retreat because he said, I have heard that you nutritionally support the liver and the body in the detoxification process. I said, you are right, we do. So what we did with this man, we gave him a protein drink every juice. So 8, 10, 12, 2, 4, and 7:30 at night on Monday and on Tuesday, because he needed a nice amount of amino acids to mop up these metabolites that were getting released from these fat-soluble toxins. And the good news is he cruised through the program. He had no adverse effects. And he started to lose weight. He was very happy with that. This 3-phase of the liver detox shows that we require today high antioxidants. That's in your fruits and your vegetables, especially your vegetables. It also shows the importance of having adequate amino acids. As a plant-based lady, my amino acids comes from legumes, so the beans, nuts and seeds. And I eat them every single day and sometimes every meal, because we require probably more than any generation amino acids, because we are dealing with more fat-soluble toxins than any generation. And a lot of them are in hidden ways. This morning I touched on some fabrics that are made out of chemicals. And these fabrics were created in a chemical laboratory: nylon, acrylic, and polyester. And when I was in Target on our way here, because my daughter Jessica, her suitcase exploded on the way here. We had to get another suitcase. And I was walking past children's toys, stuffed toys. I was walking past blankets, clothes, polyester, 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 polyester. I'm horrified. But if we, the community, stopped buying it, guess what? Things would quickly change, absolutely. And a lot of people don't realize that wearing polyester, see, our skin is millions of little holes and they breathe. So anything that's touching our skin, especially when we get hot and the pores open, that's another way that the chemicals are getting into our body. And one of the first things I said to you was, we are exposed to so many chemicals today, and unfortunately in some areas we don't even realize it. I have to tell you that when I'm cutting up broccoli, I'm very happy to find a caterpillar crawling in my broccoli, because what does that mean? It's organic. There's no sprays. There's no sprays. Absolutely, I would much rather see that. It's those hidden chemicals that often we don't realize. That's why, as Nelson Mandela said, I'm the captain of my ship. I'm the master of my destiny. I'm the one that chooses what goes in and what does not go into my body. But we need to know. We need to know what's in that personal care product. We need to know what's in our shampoo. We need to know what we're washing our dishes with. We need to know what fabric those clothes are made out of. One of our guests came to me and said, Barbara, I'm going to have to throw all my clothes out. I said, well, the good news is there are, you call them thrift shops, second-hand shops. You might just need to take your magnifying glass to read the labels. And I don't mind if a garment has 80-90% cotton or wool and a little bit of elastane or maybe a little poly. Sometimes they do have a little. In fact, my stockings are made out of modal. Modal is the cellulose spun from the birch tree. It's interesting the fabrics that are coming through today. It is true that they would have used chemicals to soften the wood fibres, but all you have to do is wash your clothes and hang them in the clothesline. I believe the clothesline people should be putting me on consignment because I'm encouraging people to go back to putting their clothes on the clothesline. We're in Lancaster, Pennsylvania last week, driving along, and I said, well, there's an Amish home. How do I know they're Amish home? They've got clotheslines. The clothes are outside. And my daughter is in Wisconsin. She lives near Amish. She said in the middle of winter, in the snow, the clothes are on the clothesline. And you know what they do? At the end of the day, they're frozen solid, and they flick them. And it flicks the ice off, and the clothes are 3/4 dry. And they take them inside and hang them around their wood stoves. I guess that's what our ancestors did before Nikola Tesla put the hydroelectricity in the Niagara Falls. Incredible history. So back to looking at where we are exposed to those environmental poisons in so many ways. But I'm so thankful to God that He's given us a liver that can effectively detoxify us. But we need to give it the right conditions. And those right conditions are eat your veggies, eat your greens. Every day we should be eating fruits and vegetables. Also proteins and good fats. Good fats. You know, I talked to a 80, 90-year-old, they won't touch fats because they are from the era where they were totally brainwashed against fat. But as Dr. Malcolm Kendrick said in his book, The Great Cholesterol Con, he said, I'm still waiting for the proof that fat causes heart disease. It's never been proven. And then I talked to a 60, 70-year-old, they'll have a little bit of fat. Then I talked to a 40, 50-year-old, they don't seem to have a problem. And then I talked to a 20, 30-year-old, oh, they have no problem at all. And it's an illustration, as one health writer said, it's going to take a whole generation to get fat phobia out of the brain. Well, I think we're there. I think we've come there because I don't have much resistance when I talk about how important fat is. And as I will show you tomorrow when we look in more detail at the liver, it's not fat that makes you fat. It's actually this high carbohydrate food that many are eating today. Yes, some of the glucose through the cell. Yes, some of it is stored as quick release glucose in the cell, but all the excess is stored as fat. It's not fat that makes you fat. And fat is an essential nutrient needed by our body because 50% of the membrane around every cell in the body is fat, except for the brain cell, that's about 70% fat. It's the brain that suffers when we are not eating enough fat. Hippocrates said, let food be your medicine and medicine be your food. And yet he didn't know what I've just told you about the 3 phases of the liver detox. The 3 phases of the liver detox is an illustration that our body needs to be nutritionally supported as we go through a detox or a cleanse program. And that's why the juices are important. At the end of every day, as I mentioned earlier, our guests go through a steam sauna and they sweat out a lot. They sweat out a lot of waste and they sweat out some minerals. So we give them broth at the end of the day. And that broth is a lot of vegetables cooked in a lot of water for about 4 hours. And all the minerals from the vegetables go into the water. We strain it. We put some Celtic salt in. And they can have 1 or 2 or 3 broths at night. And that replaces the minerals. Yes? What's in the protein drink? I'm not exactly sure what the staff used now, but I know that when I was there, see, I'm a threat to public safety, so I'm not allowed to work there anymore. So this is my 5th year of being away for 9 months of the year. But my understanding is that they do a pea protein. You can get some very nice protein powders now. You can get pea protein powders. You can get hemp protein powders. You can get brown rice protein powders. So it's just a matter of reading your labels and making sure that it's as probably simple as possible and the less ingredients. Yes? Pardon? The organ of elimination that filters the blood, the colon. Now, only microscopic waste can come out of the skin, can come out of the lungs, can come out of the kidneys. The largest pieces of waste are eliminated via the colon. And the colon also needs us to exercise because exercise strengthens the colon. Exercise increases the circulation of the blood to the colon. The colon also needs us to be well hydrated. One of the main functions of the colon is to take water out so stools are formed. If we're dehydrated, more water gets taken out, and there's one thing we don't want to stop in the detox is the colon, because it's eliminating the largest pieces of waste. Now, usually it is fibre that stimulates peristalsis in the colon. And for the first 2.5 days, we do not serve any solid food. So there's no fibre coming through. And so what we offer is herbs. And we have a group of herbs. In my book, Sustain Me, I have a chapter on the colon, which lists the herbs. And also my other book, Self-Heal by Design, there's a chapter on the liver, which talks about this detoxification that lists the herbs. We say to our guests, do you need tea tonight? And if they have not been, yes, take a cup of tea before they go to bed. And usually it will stimulate the peristalsis so that they will evacuate in the morning. Position is also important. So let me explain what I mean by position. Here is the throne, and here is the person sitting on the throne doing their daily evacuation. Now, in the last part of the colon, so here's the last part of the colon, this is where everything comes out. In the last part of the colon, there's a loop. And that loop is held up by a muscle called puborectalis. And puborectalis is a muscle that holds up the last part of the colon. And we are very glad for that muscle, because if we're caught in a traffic jam, I don't think there's any traffic jams out here, maybe you're in Buffalo, caught in a traffic jam and you can't go, we're very glad that we can hold it. Unfortunately, many people use that when they shouldn't. The body says go, you got to go. If a person is sitting on the throne like this, puborectalis still remains taut like this. It remains up. But if a person has a little stool in front of the toilet and the knees are up in the air like this in the squatting position, that squatting position causes puborectalis to relax. And when puborectalis relaxes, then the last part of the colon opens up and the contents can pass with the greatest of ease. I've been in many countries, in Africa and in Singapore and in India and in some Asian countries. I go into the bathroom and the toilet is a hole in the ground. It's all tiled and all flush. But I know in many countries, traditionally, they would squat to do their daily evacuation. And now the research is showing that it is the best way to go, because the contents can be eliminated with a far greater ease. And it also takes pressure off the anus, which means it can prevent hemorrhoids and it contribute to healing of hemorrhoids. So position is also important. You can go to Bed Bath and Beyond and you can buy something called Squatty Potty and it fits around the toilet. So position is also very important. And so at our retreat, we encourage our guests, as you can see, every single one needs water. We also encourage exercise. But there's another tiny little organ called the tongue. And we do warn our guests that when they wake up in the morning, the mouth may not feel very nice because waste can be eliminated via the tongue. So we encourage our guests to oil pull. So what's oil pulling? It's been done probably through Asia for centuries. It's putting a teaspoon of coconut oil in the mouth and swishing. You might swish for 10 seconds, rest for 10 seconds. And you can do this for about 10 minutes and then release it out. And while it's in the mouth, it's pulling waste from the tongue. It's pulling waste from the glands under the tongue. It pulls waste from the blood vessels under the tongue. So that when you release it out, that coconut oil will contain waste. And please don't release it down you call it a sinkhole. In Australia, we call it a plug hole. Don't release it down the sinkhole because coconut oil goes solid when it gets hard and you'll certainly block up your plumbing. So please release it out on the grass or release it into, we call it the garbage bin, you call it the trash can, or release it into there. And then rinse your mouth a couple of times and release that out because it has pulled waste. It's a very simple thing you can do. I travel with coconut oil and I often will do it in the morning, usually when I come back from exercise. It's a great way to do a little tiny detox. And I travel a lot, so I'm exposed to plane fumes, etc., etc. But I'm so happy to have tonsils. Do you know what tonsils are? They're the only part of our lymphatic system that throws waste straight out. Your lymphatic system is a network of little capillaries that sweeps away waste from the tissues. So often on my morning walk, or if I'm oil pulling, afterwards I'll cough up a lump. Now, don't get concerned with that. Where was it before you coughed it? And it's usually coming from your tonsils because your tonsils are the only part of your lymphatic system that throws waste straight out. So what we find is oil pulling not only pulls from your tongue, not only pulls from the glands under your tongue, the blood vessels under your tongue, but it can help to loosen from your lungs. It can help to pull out of your tonsils. And I also find when people have sinus problems after they oil pull, they'll often blow their nose quite a bit, so it releases all of that. Not only that, because coconut oil is antibacterial, antifungal, it can help to clean up any infections in the gums. I know people that have had bleeding gums, swollen gums, do that 2 or 3 times a day and it can really settle it down. When the guests come to Misty Mountain, we encourage them to oil pull ideally 2 or 3 times a day, and it pulls the waste out, yes?
One nutritionist that I was doing that said that if you have a lot of old fillings, so there's mercury and it pulls that out too.
Can it pull the fillings out? We have not.
The mercury in the fillings.
Can it pull the mercury out?
It pulls the mercury out.
Well, the good news is all you're doing is spitting it out. So it doesn't matter. So that's pretty good. Better that it go into the oil and you release it out than it go into your body. But ideally, we need to find a biological dentist and get those mercury fillings out of the body. They're not safe. Do you know that young dentists today are taught not to use it because it's toxic? And it is. It's a neurotoxin. So ideally, that be taken out. So with the detox, yes, The liver needs the right conditions so that it can effectively break our fat-soluble toxins down to a water-soluble state, but also to ensure that your organs of elimination, which is your skin, your lungs, your kidneys, your colon, and in a smaller degrees your tongue, are also given the right conditions so that they can effectively release the waste out of the body as it comes into the blood. So that's the 3 phases of the liver detox. In my book, Sustain Me, and also my book, Self-Heal by Design, I describe the 3 phases of the liver detox. So my suggestion to you is to read it in there again. If you read it yesterday, you might not have quite known what I was going on about, but because I have explained it in this class, when you read it, it will solidify in your brain. I was giving a lecture at a conference a few years ago on the 3 phases of the liver detox, and a man came up and he said, "This is fascinating, but it's not for your lay people, it's for your academics." I said, "Well, lay people have livers too, you know." I believe that this is vital information for people living on planet Earth in 2025, exposed to so many environmental poisons that we don't need to fear. But it is important to take steps to know what these poisons are. We've got no say over the neighbour, but we've got total say over our house, what we put on our bodies, in our bodies, what we wear. So absolutely reducing the exposure, but also knowing that there is a way to detox. So that question's often asked, so how often do you do this? Well, I personally actually never do it. Well, I can't say never, maybe many years ago, but many people whose body aren't working well, who've been exposed to chemicals, they find coming to the retreat and Eden Valley in Loveland, Colorado, I know they also do the same as we do in Misty Mountain in Australia, and there may be others in the US that I am not aware of. So it's great to be able to go to a retreat where it's all done for you, or some people choose to do it at home and they might do it once a month. But what our guests do after they start eating is time-restricted eating. This is proven to be the most popular way of eating today as far as the nutritionists are concerned. So what's time-restricted eating? It came out of the 5-2 diet, it came out of the intermittent fasting, and it's eating twice, 6 hours apart in a 24-hour period. That sounds very much like breakfast like a king, lunch like a queen, and supper like a pauper. But do you know what that means? That means that every 24 hours, you're doing an approximately 18-hour fast. So if you ask me if I fast, I often will do that. If I'm able to have a king, and sometimes the queen eats as much as the king, a king-size meal about 2 in the afternoon, then there is no need to eat again. Again, it's got to be something that works for you with your schedule, your work, your school, whatever you're doing. But they're finding that diabetics are managing their blood sugar levels better. They're finding that people are losing weight. They're finding that even people that are struggling with emotional, mental problems, it's easing that. There's a tight connection between the stomach, the colon, and the mind. And the stomach and the colon work very well when it has this rest between meals. So that's what we do with our guests. We give them breakfast at 7:30 when they start eating on Wednesday, and we give them lunch at 1:30. And then every evening we just serve, there was a broth there, I've rubbed it out, the broth. And our guests are very, very happy with that. And a common email that we get 6 weeks after the program is 10 kilos or about 20-pound weight loss. We find that the underweight put a little bit on, the right weight stay the same, the overweight are starting to lose a bit. So it shows that it's a balancing program. And so that, in a nutshell, is the detoxification program that we do at our retreat. And I'm going to start questions now. My daughter has some questions that have been put in. We're going to be answering questions every evening. And we find that there are often similar questions. And so we've endeavoured to put those together.
Right. We might not get through all of these. We'll do our best.
But we're going to try.
Are all the Facebook posts really you?
No. My ones are real Barbara O'Neill. And my website is officialbarbarao'neill.com. So from officialbarbarao'neill.com, you will get all the true social media platforms.
Remedies for bulging or herniated disc?
I'm going to let my daughter answer this because she has experienced that.
I, probably about nearly 13 years ago, was scheduled for emergency back surgery because I have a herniated disc, a torn disc, and a bone spur growing into a disc in my back. I didn't want to get surgery, and I asked the surgeon if there were any other alternatives. He said, yes, you need to identify the physical triggers and either eliminate them or manage them, and then identify the emotional triggers and eliminate and manage them, and I did both. I also had to strengthen my body, strengthen my core, which is from your knees to your torso, so your thighs, your buttocks, not just your belly. So I did, and I haven't had surgery, my back is fine.
So it's an indication how if you look at the skeletal system in a science lab, it has to be held up, doesn't it? But what holds us up is all the muscles and the tendons and the ligaments, and that's what we have say over. But what Jessica was also taught, and through her, it taught me too, mindfulness. And I remember her telling me she'd go out to garden and in 5 minutes her back was sore, she'd immediately go inside and lay down. And then 10 minutes later she'd get up, she'd go back to the garden. 5 minutes, that's all she could bear. She had to listen. And from that, it's now Jessica has no pain at all, but she must keep those muscles strong. Our massage therapist says to me, we can tell the strength of a body by the strength of the core. And it's not just here, it's also thigh. And the biggest bones in our body are our femur, and the biggest muscle mass is our quads and our glutes. So using that to bend. Have you seen the way a 2-year-old picks up a ball? How do we pick up balls? So many people bend like that and puts all that pressure on there, so it's building that. So thank you, Jess, because that's an impressive story. And Jessica did not need the operation and has no pain today.
What do you suggest for migraines?
All depends on why the migraines are there. I've known people to conquer migraines by balancing the hormones. I've known people to balance their migraines by going to an osteopath, chiropractor, and checking that the spine, the cranial sitting right. So I always say to the person, when did they begin? And if they began at puberty, it's usually hormones. If it began after an accident, then maybe the alignment is necessary. Sometimes it can be allergy to probably chocolate and red wine. They can be two of the most common. So one must investigate why the migraines are there.
Lymphedema, swollen ankles, painful legs, etc.
So with the swelling in the legs, sometimes it can be related to kidneys. So check the water consumption, not drinking too much water at once. And the little rebounders, they are the best for dispersing fluid through the body. And if the person cannot jump on the rebounder, they can do the health bounce. This is the health bounce. So even just getting on the rebounder and doing this can help to disperse that fluid. And there is a herb called dandelion. And dandelion is what's called a diuretic. So it stimulates the kidneys to release extra fluid. I'd also look at shoes, very important to assess the shoes. They're good fitting shoes, they're not restrictive. I've got a chapter in my book, Sustain Me, called Lovely Legs. And it talks about the conditions that the legs need to work well.
My son is an alcoholic. He's quit now for 2.5 months. Is there anything I can do so he does not go back to drinking?
That's very important. This is close to my heart because I have one brother and he was an alcoholic, but he hasn't touched it now for about probably 12 years, but he still goes to Alcoholics Anonymous because he have found that has helped very much. So that the person that has been an alcoholic, they can never touch it again. But just being mindful of that, and also a lot of people don't realise how giving their bodies the right conditions, meaning going to bed early, drinking adequate water, eating nourishing food, and also being mindful of the great help that there is in knowing the God of heaven to resist temptations.
My daughter was diagnosed with Hashimoto's. She took gluten and dairy out of her diet. Just curious on your thoughts on gluten-free versus incorporating ancient grains into her diet, grinding our own wheat berries.
I guess it's a matter of seeing what your body responds to, but certainly the ancient grains that have not been hybridized are much superior. In my book, Sustain Me, I have a chapter on the thyroid where I go through all the basics that the thyroid needs to function well.
My 14-year-old daughter has had pneumonia 3 times. Her most recent case was July 25. She's had antibiotics each time, and I was told she has long lungs. What can I use to help her?
In my book, Sustain Me, I have a chapter on respiratory, and I go through all the things that you can do to strengthen the lungs, also herbs that can strengthen the lungs. Exercise is very important, and also only nose breathing. But what I would look at what was the build-up to the pneumonia happening and how you could prevent it.
Can we regain lost memory? Doctors can't find anything wrong.
You can regain lost memory. Our brains are incredible, and I think everyone can identify it. You might see something that'll trigger a memory in your brain, and as you start to pursue that memory, a networking process happens in the brain that brings up others from that time. And what I showed this morning when we looked at sleep, that nerves that lie together fire together. So often something can trigger a memory, and just going down those memory lines can revive them. Stress and worry can certainly block it.
My daughter is expecting and is wary of the number of vaccines and timing, but is still planning to vaccinate. What would you suggest?
I'm sorry to hear that. If someone asks me, should I vaccinate, I don't tell anyone what to do. So these 2 things I advise: going to the chemist and getting a printout of what's in the vaccines. Google Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, and she gives a thorough explanation of what's in those vaccines. And when you see what's in those vaccines, I don't know any parent that wants that in their child, especially the formaldehyde and the aluminium, which are neurotoxins. And that explains why we've got about I think the latest figures are 1 in 30 children suffering from attention deficit syndrome or autism or epilepsy. And if you look at the Amish, they're about 2%. And the Amish don't vaccinate their children. I do not believe it's safe. Dr. Sherry Tenpenny calls it the childhood poisoning program. but it's actually just investigating. And if you're still not sure, take a piece of paper and you've written a few things on it, and you say to the person that's going to inject your child, would you please sign this, that you will be accountable? You will be responsible if my child has a reaction. I don't think anyone will sign that. 10 penny. I'll write it.
My ferritin levels are 5 over a year with a hemoglobin of 8.7. What is causing the bone marrow to malfunction and not produce red blood cells? How can you stimulate red blood cell production?
In my book, Sustain Me, I have a section in there on anemia. For anemia to happen, it's usually a couple of things. The woman may have heavy blood loss at period time. And when we look at hormones, I'll be showing you how you can regulate that. Or it can be low hydrochloric acid, because iron is bound up in food and it needs acid to liberate it from food. So I address those main points in my book.
I have Lyme disease, parasites, leaky gut, and a host of other issues. Do I try to heal the gut before detoxing?
Yes, it is important to heal the gut, and it's very easy to heal the gut. You've just got to give it the right conditions. And this term leaky gut is something that is thrown around a lot, but you can't see it, and it's obviously someone's opinion. But it's vital that the gut be strengthened. And what does that is your probiotic foods, and fibre feeds them. But there's a book called Healing Lymes, and Healing Lymes has a protocol in it. I don't know much about Lyme's disease because it's quite rare in Australia. And we've never had anyone with Lyme's disease come to our retreat. But the author's name is Stephen Harrod Bronner. And when I was at Eden Valley a few years ago, it's Bronner. I met a girl there and she said she had Lyme's disease, so I told her about the book by Stephen Harrod Bronner. I saw her 1 year later. She said, "Thank you so much." She said, "I implemented his protocol and I'm now free of Lyme's disease."
What is the proper protocol for parasite, fungal, heavy metal detoxification?
Now, have you noticed it's the current trend? Have you noticed that? I don't do social media, but I'm getting so many questions on parasites. And I said to Jess, "What is this?" She said, "Oh, it's the trend at the moment. They're blaming everything on parasites. Have you noticed?" So my question is, why are the parasites there? Rather than blaming them for all the problems, why are they there? If the person is evacuating from their colon once a week, you've got a wonderful ground for parasite growth in there. So the colon must be evacuating regularly. And if there are animals in the home, dogs and cats carry parasites. So if someone has animals in the home, the worst place is in the bed, please not in the bedroom, and ideally not in the kitchen, because they do carry parasites. So if you do have animals in the home, that person should do a parasite cleanse every 6 months. And the anti-parasite herbs are wormwood and black walnut. I notice the walnuts are falling on the ground at the moment, but this is the black walnut, and also clove essential oil. And often if you go to a health food shop, I think you have health food shops like Whole Foods, Sprouts, they have herbal sections. You can usually get a mix that's got these in it. And what a person should do is take it 3 times a day for 2 weeks, stop for 2 weeks, so that any little babies can sprout out. and then do it for another 2 weeks. So that can be done every 6 months if the person has animals in the home. And so the question often is asked me, Barbara, how often do you do one? Oh, well, I've never done one. Well, I don't have animals in the home and everything works well.
For a fungal detox, will you cover that in your
I will.
Thursday morning lecture?
Yes, Thursday morning we're looking at that, and if you can't wait till then, my book Self-Heal by Design targets that in detail.
Heavy metal?
A heavy metal, the heavy metals need metal chelators, and you call it cilantro, yeah? Cilantro. We call it coriander, but I know you call it cilantro, and also chlorella. So these are two metal chelators that can be taken to chelate metal out of the body.
How can I decrease my hot flashes?
So we're going to be looking at hormones on
Thursday?
Friday, is it? Yep. On Friday we'll be looking at hormones, balancing hormones. Great. We've got 2 lectures in the morning, which means I'll be able to explore it in great detail. So the hot flashes are usually due to a hormonal imbalance. So my daughter Jessica and my other daughter Julia are making a cream called Trelune. Tre meaning 3, lune, the lunar cycle. And there are a lot of jars in customs at the moment. We were hoping they'd be available by now, but your president has put in some extra rules about things coming in, and because the customs are overloaded, they've all gone on strike. So please pray that these creams will be released as soon as possible.
Is there anything to help with vision changes as you age, needing reading glasses?
In my book, Sustain Me, I've got a chapter on the eyes, and I quote a book called Better Eyesight Without Glasses by Dr. William Bates. It was written in the 1950s. He almost lost his license over writing such a book, showing people how to strengthen their eyes without using glasses. A popular subject. It's called Better Eyesight Without Glasses by Dr. William Bates. In my book Sustain Me, I have a chapter on eyes and I quote him. So that's Dr. William Bates. But it's a fascinating book showing the simple exercises, eye exercises you can do. But what I found interesting, and this is the last chapter of the book, he basically goes through the laws of health that I touched on this morning in the Sustain Me principles. So eyes need you to have a good night's sleep. Eyes need you to be well hydrated, to eat well. When you're fresh in the morning and you have eye strain, it strengthens the eyes. But if you strain your eyes in the evening when your eyes are tired and your brain is tired, that weakens the eyes because your eyes are connected to your brain. So it's a fascinating book.
What can be done to help allergies?
Allergies are usually an allergy to something, and that can be chemicals, it can be moles, and it can be certain foods. And I find that the most common allergen foods are dairy and wheat. The wheat was hybridized in the 1950s. Oats are commonly they commonly contain lectins, and lectins can increase inflammation in the body. Peanuts are often contaminated with mold, and refined sugar is like kerosene to a fire. I have had people stop these foods. It can take at least 2 months to see the difference. You can have a slice of bread, it'll be out of your body in 24 hours, but the effect can remain for sometimes 2 months. And I've had people stop these foods and they say, I don't have a cat allergy anymore. Another lady said, I don't have a dust mite allergy anymore. Another lady said, I don't have a pollen allergy anymore once these foods were stopped.
Anything to help excess sebum production?
Right, so that's acne, yep. Acne is often, well, when does acne begin? Puberty. And so it's influenced by hormones. So balancing the hormones can usually help.
What can be done for kidneys?
In my book, Sustain Me, I have a chapter on the kidneys. And I show in that book all the things that you can do to strengthen the kidneys. And at the end, I give a story of a lady who came to our retreat. She was about to go on dialysis, and she did not need to go on dialysis.
Suggestions for extremely thin skin. Everything cuts open the skin.
What strengthens skin is exercise, because when we exercise, especially during the high intensity, it increases the circulation of the blood to the skin, which strengthens the skin. So exercise is one of the best skin strengtheners. Our skin is an illustration of our hydration. It's an illustration of what we're eating. It's an illustration of how much we're exercising.
What's the best salt to use in the morning water? And have they been tested in a lab?
Absolutely. You can go to the Baja salt and you go to the Celtic salt. Now, at the moment, the Celtic salt is being sued because they claim that they have found lead in the Celtic salt. But if you read the fine print, it's parts per million, which means it's barely measurable. There's actually more lead in breast implants. There's more lead in fast devitalized food than in this salt. But both the Baja salts and the Celtic salts, if you go to their website, you will get all the chemical analysis of their salts.
What about heavy metals in salt and clay?
Yeah, you'll find it's parts per million, barely measurable.
How do you approach and support Crohn's disease?
We're going to be touching that on Thursday when we go on our journey through the gut. And also, in my book, Sustain Me, I've got a chapter on the colon where I assess Crohn's disease, irritable bowel. And at the end, I have a story of, we've seen several people totally conquer this. And I find these common allergen foods, they're like kerosene to a fire on an inflamed gut. So if someone's got irritable bowel or Crohn's disease or colitis, these foods must stop. And you have a herb, very common here, not easy to get in other countries, called slippery elm. And slippery elm is the powder bark of the slippery elm tree. And when you add hot water to it, it goes like a soft jelly, and that soft jelly coats, soothes, and heals the lining of the gut.
Autoimmune hepatitis?
I have to tell you, I really struggle with autoimmune, that label. I think it's a label that have been given to people when they really don't know why it's there. Because the fact is that God did not design this body to eat itself or attack itself. If it is, we need to, where's my why? We need to look at why. What has happened that the body has started to do this? So I personally don't like that word, autoimmune. I like to look at the person, and the first thing you do is you had a look at when did this begin, what could have happened. Dr. John Clark, he's an American doctor that speaks about the link between autoimmune diseases and childhood vaccinations. And he looks at how that has triggered many.
Eczema and psoriasis?
I'll just move aside for a moment and show you the common allergens here. We have found that psoriasis and eczema are, again, allergies. It could be a reaction to chemicals, and I've met many mothers whose babies' eczema developed after the childhood vaccine. There's the chemical exposure. But stopping these foods, we've seen so many totally heal from eczema, from psoriasis, by eliminating these foods. Does that mean they can never eat those foods? No, once they've conquered it, they can probably have some of them now and then. But while they're conquering that condition, they've got to keep right away from that.
Can you heal plantar fasciitis?
You can heal plantar fasciitis. I had plantar fasciitis. I got my new barefoot runners and was running too vigorously up the hill. And what I did was I did the contrast baths. That's 3 minutes hot, 30 seconds ice cold. And I did that 3 times in a row. And I did that twice a day if possible. And I have no remnants of that anymore. It's just increasing blood supply to the area, which allows healing. We had a lady attend our program. She came in limping. She had plantar fasciitis, 18 months she's had this. So we sat her down with the 2 buckets, 3 minutes hot, 30 seconds ice cold, 3 times. And within 24 hours she was walking. Now she wasn't totally healed, but it brought her so much relief. And it might take a few weeks of doing that.
Fibromyalgia.
I think this is another word. Have you ever Googled fibromyalgia? No known cause, no known cure. What is it? It's just a name that they've given to muscle aches. Is that right? Muscle aches. So that's what I look at again. Are you well hydrated? Exercising every day? Try stopping or eliminating the common allergens. So you make some adjustments and see what helps. This is where you can do more for your body than anyone because you're the one that's listening.
What would you recommend for bone spurs on the top of a foot?
The good news is, you see, natural medicine can cure things that medicine cannot. Isn't that good news? Castor oil. If the bone spur's been there for 3 years, it might take 3 months. Every night, just sleep with a castor oil compress on that spur. So if it's been there 3 years, it might take 3 months every night. The beauty of the compress is you just close it up in the morning and the next night you open it up again and place it on the foot.
What's the best or safest castor oil to use?
I guess you just go for the best looking one that doesn't have any additives, organic as much as possible.
What causes calcifications in the body, such as breast and thyroid, and what can help?
One of the most common causes is a hormonal imbalance, because the hormone imbalance is affected by the hormone imbalance affects the thyroid, the hormone imbalance affects the breast. And as I will explain on Friday morning, it is the high estrogen. Estrogen is a cell proliferator. Cell proliferator means causes massive cell growth, and it's causing the growths to happen in the thyroid and in some women in the breasts.
The lymph nodes under both of my ears have been full, hard, and often painful. So for 2 years. Besides rebounding, what would you recommend?
I'd eliminate these foods because this is one of the reasons why adenoids happens. It's one of the reasons why tonsils get inflamed, and the tonsils are part of the lymphatic system, so the glands under the ear. And rub castor oil into them and yes, rebound.
What is your opinion on sleep apnea? There are many people with severe sleep apnea that cannot breathe through their nose.
If they tape their mouth up, they won't die. But you can train yourself into it by just putting that little bit from under the nose to the chin. Sleep apnea is very common in people carrying excess weight, because when they lay down, the excess weight can help constrict that the breathing way, the trachea. But also these foods are the most mucus-forming foods, so excess mucus building up in the eustachian tubes makes it very difficult to breathe through the nose. So eliminating those foods, also losing weight. And in my book, Sustain Me, I have a weight loss section, and also training yourself into nose breathing by putting mouth tape on.
Sleep experts say that sleep in complete blackout, especially for kids. What about sleeping with natural light coming in? Should we block out natural light when sleeping?
I guess the only natural light that might be bright would be the moonlight, and the moonlight does not interfere with sleep. Some people have the Himalayan salt lamps on at night for a little bit of light so they can go to the bathroom, or children want a bit of light. They do not interfere with proper sleep.
What should one do if they want to sleep with the windows open at night but don't think they should do due to the horrid air quality, and their gut is saying to close it and sleep cooped up? What would you do? What would be the lesser of two evils, open or shut?
Well, I would look, well, why is the air quality so bad? Are they living in a city? That's a bit of a difficult one to answer. Also, plants purify the air, so you can have a few plants around.
What would cause excessive freezing for a period of shortly after going to bed?
Freezing.
It gets cold.
Right. Obviously they didn't freeze because they've written that. Well, it could be a few things. I'd have a look at, make sure you're sleeping in natural fibre. Make sure your quilt is natural fibre. If you have a hot shower before you go to bed and you jump straight into bed and you've got a nice natural fibre, there should not be freezing. Sometimes a hormonal imbalance can flip between hot and cold, so it might be a hormonal imbalance.
What causes waking up in a sweat at 3 or 4 a.m?
Could be polyester sheets and a polyester quilt, because I have slept in an Airbnb once where it happened to me, and it was, polyester doesn't breathe, so I'd have a look at that. And night sweats can be a symptom of a hormonal imbalance.
I think you've lost your ears.
Lost my voice?
Oh, no, it's
No, it's back again.
What kind of magnesium is good for sleep?
Magnesium citrate, that's the most absorbable form of magnesium.
Beside different light sources and sleep patterns causing insomnia, how much of loss of sleep is attributed to unavoidable electromagnetic fields?
Right. My understanding is you can get devices to put in your home that'll draw the electromagnetic field into them. I'm not an expert on it, but there are devices that you can get to protect yourself against electromagnetic field. I wear a pendant when I travel that's malachite stone, and it's got a copper thread in it. And I am told that protects me when I go through from the electromagnetic field. So it's just exploring how you can protect yourself.
Can you repeat what that was?
Malachite
You said something else.
and the copper thread.
A stone?
Yes, it's a stone.
What if you have to work during the night? Can your body ever actually adjust?
Unfortunately, it doesn't properly adjust. I say to people, well, someone has to work at night, doctors and nurses on call, but you do it as less as possible.
Is there a herbal remedy to replace a statin for genetically high cholesterol?
As you will find out on Thursday night, I think it is, where I talk about the heart, that cholesterol doesn't cause heart disease. And the Framingham Heart Study showed that people with high cholesterol levels don't get Alzheimer's. So rejoice that it's high.
Is there anything one can do to eliminate or remove the calcification of an aorta?
Castor oil. Castor oil penetrates deep and is very good at breaking up calcified deposits.
What are your thoughts on grounding sheets?
I think grounding's good. Grounding is walking barefoot on the grass and connecting with the earth. The lightning and the sun connect with the electric activity, and that's another really good reason to have a clothesline. You walk out barefoot and put your clothes on the line. That's when I do my grounding. But grounding sheets, I think, have a place if someone's at a computer all day.
My husband has acid reflux and pre-cancer of the esophagus. Diet?
So it's someone's opinion that he's pre-cancer of the esophagus, and the opinions aren't always true. In my book, Systemia, I've got a chapter on the stomach where I talk about reflux, and I show that the problem is usually the cardiac sphincter, that little muscle there. Now that little muscle, the cardiac sphincter that sits at the top of the stomach, it sits in our diaphragm. So breathing with the abdominal muscles and keeping the torso, the abdominal muscles, which includes, of course, this whole area here, that strengthens that little cardiac sphincter. So if you have reflux, will your doctor ever talk to you about strengthening your diaphragm and your abdominal muscles? Because that's where that little muscle sits. It sits there. Eating breakfast like a king, lunch like a queen, and eating very lightly at night. Ideally, if you have anything, just soup. So when you lie down, you've got no food in your stomach. That helps. Slippery elm, we talked about how it coats and soothes the gut if there's irritable bowel. Well, it can coat and soothe the esophagus as well. So taking a dose of that before going to sleep at night can help.
You said aloe vera can do that too, right?
Aloe vera, yep, it can.
I have sensory neuropathy. How can I heal my nerves?
Okay, sensory neuropathy, it often happens in the feet, in the extremities. Taking cayenne pepper by mouth strengthens the arterial walls, and also wearing cayenne pepper compresses on the bottom of the feet. That can bring blood back to the area.
I suffer from cold hands and feet, wondering if it's a nerve problem or circulation.
It's usually circulation, because circulation is blood and the blood feeds the nerves. And exercise is important. Keeping warm is important. So if a person has cold feet for many years, they go to the doctor, he'll give them a name. It's called Raynaud's disease. All Raynaud's disease is cold feet and hands, but why I look at is, well, why are they cold? So you've just got to keep your extremities warm. When you wake up in the morning, you're warm, but if you get out and walk on cold floor, your feet will get cold. I don't. As soon as I get out of bed in the morning, my slippers are there. So you've got to take steps to keep your body warm. So you might need gloves, but exercise is one of the best ways to ensure that your extremities keep warm.
Tips for pain, arthritis and inflammation.
Most pain is due to inflammation. If you can get the inflammation down, you can get the pain down. So with arthritis, finely grated ginger compresses can get the inflammation out. In my book, Systemia, I have a chapter on arthritis, and I suggest a few poultices that can be used for that. Sleeping with castor oil compresses, that can certainly reduce it. Drugs will not cure it. Drugs just mask the symptoms. High-dose turmeric is very good at getting inflammation down.
Joint issues, toes and feet and bunions.
Bunions, I met a lady who had quite a severe bunion, and she wore castor oil compresses for a few months, and the bunion little by little went down. So sleep, the easiest way is just to sleep with the castor oil compress on.
What causes legs, ankles to swell every day?
We'd have to investigate to find that out. Often if the person's carrying excess weight, it can cause swelling. If the person has ill-fitting footwear, standing on cement all day, so that there can be a few factors. So it's a matter of adjusting things to see what the body responds to.
What do you do when you get bitten by a tick?
You get tweezers and you pull it out. And the best way is you put the tweezers in the neck, and as you pull, you twist, and that will get it out. And then you can put tea tree oil on it.
Lyme's disease, which we've got a book up there, but detox methods and leg aches at night.
Okay, so I'm presuming the person that asked that question did see what I had up there, Healing Lymes by Stephen Harrod Brunner, his protocol. I've met several people that have conquered Lyme's using his protocol.
Is hydrogen peroxide okay for rinsing the mouth?
Oh yeah, but I think it's a bit strong. I think you're better to use coconut oil to oil pull.
What if I'm allergic to psyllium husks?
Don't use them. Now that might be because of the first aid kit we looked at this morning used psyllium husks. What you can use instead of that is chia seed. You put water with chia seed, that'll go like a soft jelly.
Can you do the onion poultice for your dog's ear for an ear infection?
I'm sure.
They say turmeric works better with black pepper, but I know black pepper isn't great for you. What
That's
else
right.
works?
Black pepper is an irritant to the lining of the gastrointestinal tract. So I was intrigued with this, so I investigated and I discovered that what it is in black pepper that accelerates the action of turmeric is pepperine. Cayenne pepper contains pepperine. So instead of black pepper, use cayenne pepper.
Is golden seal okay to take while pregnant or breastfeeding?
They will tell you that it's not. The princes, the authorities in the field. I would ask why you're taking it, and if you take it, just take it in small amounts.
I took it through my 3 pregnancies.
And she's still alive, and so are her babies.
Is everything in the first aid kit safe for babies and toddlers? Can I answer this one? The first aid kit, it was all experimented on me. I'm fine. I've used it on... Use it on all my girls. They're fine.
But there is something I did not do. I did not allow needles to be put in my newborn baby. That's not safe.
Can you clarify the yellow of an aloe plant? Throw it away, or does it have a special use to keep?
I'd throw it away, but if you do ingest it, it'll give you diarrhea, and if you've got constipation, you might like that.
If you haven't eaten meat in 10 years and you start to crave meat again, is your body needing a mineral or have a deficiency?
I'd like to suggest that the body's craving protein, and that can be given in the form of beans, lentils, chickpeas, lima beans.
Will you be doing a health retreat in the USA?
No.
Is apple cider vinegar good for you?
It's really good to pour on your toes if you've got tinea or athlete's foot.
Is apple cider vinegar good for you?
It's good externally.
What about regular vinegar?
It's good for cleaning the bathroom.
Is rhubarb safe to eat?
Yeah, I mean it does have oxalic acid in it, but I think most people don't eat rhubarb every single day. You might have a rhubarb and apple pie once a month and it's not a big deal.
Is rooibos tea healthy?
Well, rooibos tea does not contain caffeine, so it is far better than black tea.
How important is it to avoid polyester?
Very.
Is it worth investing in natural fibres for kids?
Absolutely.
Are wood-burning stoves in the house good for our health?
Well, I have to tell you, I love wood-burning stoves. I love wood-burning stones, and keeping a kettle on with the water and the steam and having open windows. And if you've got a chimney that is drawing very well, it's not a problem. But if your chimney's not drawing well and the house builds up with smoke, you might be in trouble. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to end with a word of prayer, especially for the travellers. Father, thank you so much for what you've taught us tonight. We pray that you will bless everyone's travel on their way home and bless us with a good night's sleep. And we look forward to meeting together tomorrow. In the name of Jesus, I pray this. Good night. Thank you. Thank you.